Weird week, but I'm still going to give you the normal amount of episodes. I have some great guests coming. I got to find a way to record. I have a lot of travel, a lot of personal things in the family going on, and so all over the place. But as I told an athlete I coached the other day, I can't skip a scheduled day to release an episode, or else it's easier to do in the future. So since May, over 53 episodes, I think, in a row. We've hit every Monday and Friday. So that is what I do for you. So in order to stick to that schedule, I am going to put out an interview I did on a different podcast with Chad Lubinsky on his podcast, Peanut Butter and Mountains. And so this is the intro for that. I'm probably traveling. Things got kind of crazy. November's a tough month for a lot of different reasons. But that is going to be it. So I hope you enjoy this. Give Chad a follow. He's a great podcast host and kind enough to shoot over a recording. As always, like, subscribe, support, follow YouTube, Venmo me, $10. I don't know. Whatever you want. All right. Here is the interview with Chad.
And I want everyone to meet Jeff Garmire, whose trail name is Legend. And you're pretty much about to find out why that is in this episode today. So he's done calendar year Triple Crowns, he's set multiple FKTs, and he's completed 250-mile ultras. And so he is truly a legend in our kind of endurance world here. And so he's got over 30,000 miles of backpacking under his belt. I thought I was cool, dude, because I had like 1,500. So I'm like 1%. Yeah, I don't even know what that is. But yeah, so everybody's going to get something out of this convo today. And then even beyond the trails, Jeff is actually pretty dang hilarious on social media. And I actually shared your TikTok soup recipe the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that cracked me up, man. That cracked me up. That is my humor right there. I love it. So anyway, man, welcome to the podcast. How's it going today, dude?
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm glad that you latch onto that humor because, you know, I'm a little different with where the humor comes from. And I think it's either you're all in and it's hilarious or you're totally all out.
Totally,
and
man.
I don't mind either way, but it's just funny that you either love it or it's completely stupid.
Well, you know what it kind of reminds me of is like, have you ever seen The Office or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, both. Yeah.
Okay. Which one do you like more? I think I know which one it would be.
Wow. I like both, but probably Always Sunny.
Dude, you have the humor of Always Sunny because I can't get into The Office that well. I don't know why, but Always Sunny cracks me up. And I feel like you have that humor of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia because that's by far my favorite.
Yeah, some of the themes in some of the episodes I've just done growing up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I could totally see that. Now,
Yeah.
that's actually, and this was a question for later on, but like you have a very kind of specific brand, right? Like, you know, wearing tiger shirts and, you know, stuff like that, right? Like, where did that come from? And yeah, like where did that come from, I guess?
Wow, I have no idea, but I think it really started when I maybe was in the calendar year Triple Crown and some people are taking it very seriously, following religiously, and it's just like, I'm doing this and I'm also going to be having fun out here too. And so I just latched onto this idea of I can do these difficult or just long things, but also have a great time doing it. And so when I was on the Great Western Loop 2 years later, I needed another layer at mile 5,000 out of 7,000. So I was looking on Amazon and stumbled upon these animal face sweatshirts. And the cheapest one was the tiger one. So from then on, I was the guy wearing a tiger sweatshirt because I wanted another layer. And, you know, I could have gone a little lighter or a little more functional, but it wouldn't have been as fun. So fun is kind of equal with results for me. So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You guys got to go look at some of his stuff that he wears when he's running these ultras and things. I mean, it does look like you're having a great time, man. So kudos to you, dude. Now, what was it that kind of initially, sparked your passion for these long endurance events? Because it seems like it started with your traditional through hikes, right?
Mhm.
PCT, that type of stuff. But then you took it to another level and you started doing calendar year triples or whatever the heck they're called, and then FKTs, and then you started getting into 250-mile races. So what was that progression like? Like, where did that come from when you started with through hiking to then getting into more of those like real the speed endurance feats?
Yeah, it all is based on just having to learn about it. So I met a Pacific Crest Trail hiker when I was maybe 16, and then we gave them some food and they stayed with us. I was actually a couple, and then I guess 4 years later, I'm in the middle of college in an internship, and I just realized I didn't want to be a civil engineer, and I was gonna hopefully take some time off college, but I needed a reason to present to, I don't know, everyone, or I felt like if I'm gonna not go to college, I at least need a reason or something else to do. So it was like, I'm gonna through hike the Pacific Crest Trail. That seems like a huge challenge. And so I start through hiking that, and midway through, I find out about the Triple Crown trails. And then I think to myself,
Mm.
I wonder if I could do all three of these in a year. And so fast forward, let's see, that would be 5 more years. And I'm in the middle of doing all three,
Jeez.
just doing 8,000 miles, all three Triple Crown trails in a year. And then that's kind of when I found out about FKTs. And so I, 2 years later, I did the Great Western Loop and wanted to test myself. So I did Nolan's 14 in the middle of that and was able to do it which is 14,000 foot peaks in under 60 hours, and
Mm.
accomplished that. Got to the end of the Great Western Loop, and it was like, man, I think I could do an FKT. And so I trained and went after the FKT on the Arizona Trail and was able to get that, and then just dove right in and did the Pinhoti Trail FKT, the Long Trail FKT, and I don't know, multiple others over the next couple of years. And then that's when I started seeing the crossover or meeting
Mm-hmm.
trail runners. I guess I was on some trail running podcasts, and I'd heard of it. I'd run 150K, but I hadn't really considered it as something I wanted to do. But realizing and talking with ultra runners, it was like, well, I'm basically doing this in
Mm-hmm.
the sense of an FKT. So I might as well give ultra running a shot. And so I had done 150K, and my second ultra marathon was the Barkley Marathons.
Oh my
And
God, really?
my third ultra marathon was Cocodona 250. And so I
What?
just dove right in.
Wait, your third ultra was the what?
Cocodona.
Really? And your second one was the Barkley?
Yeah. And I'd done a
No,
50K, so I was pretty experienced.
right? Oh my God. Yeah, 50K, that's basically just like a regular hiking day when you're out through hiking, right? It's like you
It's
just hit
it's shorter than what I averaged for 208 days on the Great Western Loop.
with a frickin' backpack on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every day. Yeah.
Oh, dude, so many questions that come to my mind with this whole thing. But I guess number one, I kind of want to start with like, what is the one thing that you believe about you that really contributes to conquering and being drawn to these pretty extremely difficult goals? Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah,
what is
I
the one thing about
don't
you?
if it's easy, like doing the dishes in the sink right now, I don't want to do it.
Dude,
I
so true.
I want something really hard and that's gonna take a few months and gonna really test that I wanna go after it. That is really what I
Mm,
gravitate towards. So overall, it's like once I unlock every level, like through hike, and then unlock 3 through hikes in a year, then unlock doing the biggest circle basically you could do in the West on the Great Western Loop, then unlock FKTs, then ultra marathons. It's basically like as soon as I find the next step or the next related goal to I don't know, being endurance or being outside or pushing yourself, I basically want to go after that. So it's got to be
Wow.
something hard.
Well, how many are left
I
after
don't
you've?
know. I mean, there's so many more things to find out. Like there's the last person standing world. Last year, or I guess this
Mhm.
year, earlier this year, I dipped my toe into fixed time stuff for the first time. So I think I could do pretty good at like a 48 hour. Well, I did one this year, but I think I could do even better. So I don't know. There's just like infinite directions to go, which is also the problem. Like last year, in
Right.
1 month, I raced like a 50-mile or more every single week. So that is
Wow.
not sustainable, but I just get pretty
Right.
stoked on new goals and new ideas.
Yeah, right on. Now, you touched on the Great Western Loop, and I think that probably a lot of the people listening probably don't know what that is, but it's pretty freaking extreme. And I know the guy that created it, Andrew Skirka, wild dude, right?
Mm.
And you almost remind me of Skirka in a way, like as the younger version of him right now, just crushing all of this wild stuff. Can you kind of talk about like what the Great Western Loop was and what your experience was like on that thing? Because I'm sure it was different than
Yeah.
a PCT hike.
Yeah. Very different. I mean, since doing the Pacific Crest Trail in 2011, everything has been much different, just pushing it a little bit further each time. But the Great Western Loop is basically a 7,000-mile loop around the West. And so you take the Pacific Crest Trail base about from Mission Creek, so 200 miles north of the southern border with Mexico. You take it all the way nearly to Canada, and then you turn right on the Pacific Northwest Trail. You follow that for about 700 miles, and then you turn right onto the Continental Divide Trail, where you follow
Wow.
that south through from northern Montana all the way to southern New Mexico. And from there, you turn right again onto the little known Grand Enchantment Trail, which is a lot of navigation required and you're walking through rivers. It's pretty cool though. And then you connect that to the Arizona Trail. You follow that all the way to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And then the fun part is you have to draw up or come up with your own route from the Grand Canyon to the Pacific Crest Trail. So that's
No
about a
way.
700-mile section where I was looking at satellite imagery to try to find water sources and that kind of thing.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
And
know that.
you cross the Sonoran and Mojave deserts, so I had a 70-mile water carry between sources. So,
70 miles.
yeah.
W- So I would imagine like pretty much a lot of your adventures after that little stint right there were probably like, do you ever go back to that time in your head being like, oh, dude, well, at least this isn't as bad as when I had to carry 70 miles water for 70 miles.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really it's hard to compare how hard or bad something is. I think I just enjoy in the moment when it's tough, but the bigger piece of that 70-mile water carry is it was on like it started on day 5 or 6 of my whole thing. I decided to start with it while I was out of shape, but just 4
Oh,
days in, the
wow.
day before the 70-mile carry was gonna start, I punctured my 2-liter bladder on a tent stake, and so I was down like 2 liters, and I kind of I went to a gas station on the edge of Joshua Tree National Park and just bought a gallon jug of water and just put that in my pack.
I love it, dude. Dude, that's the problem solving of a through hiker, though, right there. I mean, that's what you got
Yeah,
to do. Wow.
absolutely.
So, do you think you'd ever do the Great Western Loop again?
I don't think I can pull off a 7-month adventure. Maybe like when I'm older, if I
Yeah.
make it to like my 70s, it'd be pretty cool to prove that I could still do these things like 50 years
Oh,
after I do them, but I
that
don't
would
know.
be freaking sweet. That would be sweet. Well, cool, man. Well, okay, so then the another thing that you did was you broke the Colorado unsupported record, which was what is it? I think I have it here. It was 9 days. It was 9 days, 8 hours, 18 minutes. Right. So the Colorado Trail is nearly 500 miles. And like I was
Mhm.
telling you before, I through hiked it. It was a pretty tough trail, I thought. I mean, you're above, you know, you're at elevation for a large part of that entire thing. And so he did this in basically just, 9.5 days, basically. So, but a couple things with this. Not only did he have people filming him during this time, but he also ran out of food for 24 hours on this trail. So I would love for you to kind of touch on both of those things. Like, number one, I guess, what was it like to have a documentary crew following you through this trail when you're suffering?
Uh, yeah, I didn't really care or pay any attention to them. I just tried to make sure I'd film myself on my own camera just enough throughout the day, and I think I drastically exceeded the amount of footage they thought I would take. So, you
Really?
know, showing up with video of myself puking and stuff was like, yeah, really committed to this. I'm puking and holding water in one hand and the camera in the other. So, or I
Dude.
even filmed popping a blister myself. I
Yeah.
really dove into
You got
this,
into
but
it, dude. You're gonna
yeah,
we got a filmmaker in the future for you, maybe, huh?
well, I just knew someone else was going to be editing it. So it was just
Yeah.
like, oh, I can take all the footage and don't have to do anything with it.
Just dump it on them. Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that is always the trouble. But yeah, the Colorado Trail, I think it averages like 10,800 feet for its entirety. And so it was certainly a grind. I'd lived in Denver for about 5 years, and this was a year and a half after I moved out of there and just thought it would be a cool way to do both an FKT and the Colorado Trail since I'd never done it outside of just pieces of it. And so
Hmm.
decided to do unsupported. Didn't really realize what 9 days of food would
Oh my
weigh.
God,
So
dude.
that was pretty rough. Yeah. And then just went for it. I was pretty up and down, especially just at altitude so much. I had a bunch of stomach issues and just headaches and stuff, and swore off Cliff Bars for forever as a result of having to force them down. And then it kind of turned around, and I was moving faster, was consuming all my food,
Interesting.
and then I just didn't ration well, or thought I would
Right.
finish the last 60 miles a little bit quicker. And turned out I was out of food for the last about 24 hours. And
Wow.
that's when you really have to mentally want it, I guess. And you just try to satiate your hunger with some water and go from there.
Wow, dude. Well, first of all, I had to carry 8.5 days of food. So I did the Nobo John Muir Trail, and I started at
Oh, yeah.
Cottonwood Pass or something like that. And I wanted to carry all the way to VVR.
Hmm.
And so I had 8.5 days in a bear can. And dude, I was like, never, ever, ever again will I carry this much food. I mean, that was a tank, dude. So you had 9 days of food and you're trying to go fast. So I can only imagine that. So yeah, bring me back to those 24 hours where you were just no food. Like, what was going through your head? I mean, you had to have so many up and down moments throughout that entire thing. Like, you probably were feeling pretty good at some points, pretty freaking bad. How did you get through that? What was the deal with that?
Yeah, it was a huge balance, really based on energy level, because it was so hard to just maintain a standard energy level with very little food, even going into that last 24 hours. And so it was trying to just get miles when I could, or take a complete break or something when I couldn't. I knew I could likely get the record, but I also didn't. I don't know. It was a huge, just mental blow to be licking the last bit of peanut butter outside of the sandwich bag that it was in, and just knowing that, well, I've got to make it the rest of the way on just this amount. And yeah, even going into the last 2 days of that, it was just like making deals with myself, like, oh, I'll have a couple extra bites of this now
Right.
because then I'll move better. And then I don't know. It's just all, you're so in your head there. You're just doing calculations on miles, the next water, how fast you're
Mhm.
moving, how long you think you'll get to the next spot,
Yeah.
like where you think you'll sleep that night. That it wasn't the hunger isn't that bad because it comes in waves. So if you battle
Sure.
back a wave, then it'll be gone for an hour or two. And so you
Hmm.
just kind of have to try to mentally distance yourself from any pain or discomfort. It's the same thing with being tired too, that it comes in these waves and the waves sometimes get bigger and bigger. But if you can just weather each wave, then you can
Yeah.
move on and dive back into the next thing and have even more intense hallucinations in an hour or
Yeah.
two.
Interesting. So both the hunger and the tiredness kind of comes in waves. And so kind of what you're saying is if you can kind of get through the wave, you usually have some at least sort of like up, I guess, in the roller coaster that you're on.
Yeah, and it's all driven by experience too. So if you've been to that place where your eyes are deceiving you and you're like on the Arizona Trail, it was the first real time I saw like was hallucinating witches under the moon shadows. And so
Wow.
that was a little creepy and different. But then 4 or 5 more times in 2019, I had similar hallucination experiences, and each one is more, it just make that groove more familiar, or that turn in the road where it's like, okay, the world's a little weird now. I'm tired, but I have to keep moving. And I know that these things are fake. And so that's what helps when you're hallucinating and you're out of food and you're tired. And at the end of a 9-day FKT is you're like, well, most of these things I've dealt with before, there's only this hunger thing. And if I can just deal with that, everything else I'm pretty confident in getting through. So I think that's kind of the
Wow.
goal and the nice thing about progressing through stuff too, and especially going from through hiking and FKTs to ultra running is, other than a few more specific things to ultra running, most of the major problems I've had to deal with before, from feet issues to stomach stuff to whatever, that I at least have a few options with every problem that can come up.
Yeah. Wow. You have some, it's like you add tools to your tool belt every time you gotta go through that.
Yep. Yeah, I call it the toolkit, and that's what the athletes that I coach, we talk about that a lot, is like, oh, if this comes up, we want to have a couple different things, because the second you run out of tools to try is when you start feeling hopeless or bad. And so if there's,
Mm,
even if it's like my stomach's upset, I can't eat anything, it's like, well, let's just pretend trying a different flavor of the same gummy is going to help. Like every time you try something new,
interesting.
you've got that hope again. And once you kind of lose that hope, that's when it's too easy to sit in a chair and not get up again. So you just never
I
want to
love
run out
that.
of tools.
God, I love that. Okay, so let's say that you're coaching someone and you're in there, you're crewing them, okay, and they're just doing a 100-mile race, and a couple things are happening. They're super tired, obviously, legs are hurting them, and they're just not able to stomach anything down, like any solid foods down or anything like that. What if I sat down in that chair, like what advice would you give me right there?
First off, since I think stomach stuff can be the most disheartening, is to go to say that the goal is only to get in some amount of food every hour. It doesn't even matter if we're not hitting the goals. So there just never can be that void. Even if it's a quarter or one little bit of a gel, that's a few calories and that's going to bridge the gap until your stomach is better. So number one, we've got that confidence and that hope that if I can just get in half a saltine cracker, mentally, I'll feel like I'm not just destined to fail. So I
Sure.
think setting a super attainable goal like that, and then I think it's just emphasizing micro goals when it gets to tiredness or pushing forward. So if it happens to be in the middle of the night, it's sort of like, well, why don't we turn out all our headlamps and we'll set a 5-minute timer, just close your eyes and then we'll get moving again after that. And that can just give the illusion that you got this rest, and then we'll keep moving. So it's all these little things. Half of them are mind games and half of them I think are actually pretty valuable things to do. And focusing on those micro goals late in a race just makes it seem more attainable, because 6 miles could feel like 100 miles when you're
Yeah.
pretty deep in the race. So if you're just like, well, this hill's a half a mile, push hard to the top and then just reassess, that kind of thing. So
Wow.
taking things in the most manageable way and then
Cool.
finding a tool for every situation.
Wanted to pop in here quick to tell you guys about something that you are going to absolutely love. So, for a limited time, I'm actually offering my free outdoor goals Notion template. I'm actually selling this on Etsy for $8, but I'm offering it free for everybody that's listening to the podcast right now for a limited time. I'm not sure when I'm going to be taking this down. What this is storing all of your information, like your flights, the dates that you're going to go, your calendar, your beta for the adventure, the partners you're going with. It assembles everything all in one area. There's no more fumbling around with trying to cross-reference notes that you copy and pasted off of a blog on your Word document, but then you also have flights on your phone. It's all going to be in one place. What I like to do with it, I like to create all my goals ahead of time, block out all those dates. I know when I'm going to be going. I know what the goal is. It's templated, so you have all the things that you need to fill out, like permits and everything, in the actual database. So no worrying about having to recreate everything. And here's actually a quick email that I just received randomly from a person that actually picked it up. He said, your info has been the most helpful out of all of the hikers on various platforms that I follow. Specifically, your outdoor goals Notion template has been great, not just for planning purposes, but for motivation, as I can see my next year's adventures in a snapshot. I now use Notion for organizing pretty much everything in my life, including work. So that's what we're trying to do for you guys. We're trying to help you out. And so again, I'm offering this free outdoor goals planning list template for free for a limited time. Grab it now in the show notes below. Back to the episode. Dang, dude, that gives me chills. That's great advice right there. Everybody, he coaches people, so we'll leave a link down below for that in the show notes and stuff. But that's cool, man. And I guess while we're on the topic of ultras now, so your third ever ultra was the Cocodona 250. Okay, that blows my mind. Was that this year or last year?
No, I've done it every year that it's happened. So I've done it
Oh,
2021, 22, and 23, but it was
oh,
2021. I showed up to the start line. I didn't even know how drop bags worked. And so I had no crew. I didn't have a pacer at that time. I convinced a friend in Phoenix to come out and pace. But yeah, I basically showed up like it was going to be a through hike or something. And once I figured out how drop bags work, I sent one to the halfway point and was just like, whatever, I'll just put a spare pair of socks in my running vest and just call it good for the whole 250 miles. So that's sort of what I did. I didn't sleep in any of the sleep stations. I just took dirt naps along the way, but
oh, really? Yeah.
just called it like a through hike, basically.
Unreal. So like when you rolled up to the starting line and people were like asking you stuff, they probably thought you were just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, well, I had 2 drop bags. I thought they were gonna like leapfrog each other the whole trail
Right.
or the whole race, but that's not how drop bags ever work. So other people had like 20 of them for every aid station, and I walk up with 2, and the guys in the truck are like, where are these going? And it was like, oh, I have no idea. I don't even know any of the aid stations. So I just took them back to my car. This is like 5 a.m. The race starts in 30 or 45 minutes or something, and just reconfigured them, found a couple spots on the aid station chart and just sent them there, and knew that it was going to be fine. I'll just go from there. It just needed to start that thing, because the more I realized I didn't know, the worse it was. So I just know, get this thing started and we'll be fine.
Well, and I bet most of that confidence has to come from your previous accomplishments that you've done. I mean,
Well,
the
only thing I knew is that I can go 250 miles under this cutoff, even with a 30-pound pack. So it was like, I'm not worried about the miles. I just don't know anything about the amenities and things, how to get there. So
yeah,
I'll just, I guess, adapt to it. But yeah, it was a very different feeling to everyone else on the start line, where they're jumping up in distance, and this is quite a bit jump down for me.
So tell me how that Cocodona compared to Thru-Hiking 250, like an FKT 250 or something. I mean, it had to be. I mean, I don't even want to say that it was like, I don't want to use the word easy, But if you have aid stations you don't have to carry your food, you don't have to carry a backpack. You have aid stations where people are giving you and cooking you. It's like trail angels at every single, 6, 7, 8, 10 miles. It's probably pretty nice for you, dude.
Yeah, I'd never done anything supported, so
Yeah.
it was actually easier. I don't know, coming from through hiking or just unsupported anything or just going on long runs in the mountains, some of the races and the amenities, it blows you away how much these strangers care about your success. Like, it's really cool. And that mentally made it a lot
Yeah.
easier and nicer. It's not like I'm going to go through the woods for 7 days and at the end, no one's there and I just touch a sign, take a picture, and that's the
Right.
FKT. This
100%.
one, there was like real energy. It was really cool.
Totally, dude. Yeah. So are you the type of person, I feel probably everybody is, but like, how does that energy kind of affect you when you're running some of these things? 'Cause I know for me, like when I'm around that environment, dude, I get stoked. I mean, stoked.
Yeah, I think it's really fun. I love interacting with the other runners. And the nice
Mhm.
thing about something that's 250 miles long is, I mean, the first 40 miles don't really matter. So it's like, let's just ease into something, talk to everyone else, like get into the spirit of this multi-day race. And so I do most training and running and stuff and FKTs. Everything in the past has been alone. So it's like a really cool
Right.
social way to do this hard thing and interact with people. So yeah, it's
Totally.
totally different style. And it just opened up my eyes to there's multiple ways to do these long things and not everything has to be unsupported too.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. Now, how much different is a 250-mile race versus a 100-miler? That's probably a stupid question, but like, what is it like logistically or like training wise pre-race? How much more do you have? How, if you're coaching somebody again, like how would you have them prepare differently for 100-mile versus 250?
100 mile, we would do a little bit more faster stuff, especially starting out, maybe like a VO2 max period of a training block. But I coached the guy who got second in the Triple Crown of 200s last year. And I think so. We did 3 200s within maybe 4 or 5 months, whatever this, maybe 4 months. And we really just focused on recovery and then making, I don't know, we probably had 2 rest days. I don't know, one week a month or 2 rest days a week, 1 week a month. So it was really focused on
Wow.
this recovery thing, settling into a pace, and then finding some of that variance as far as like longer warm up, simulate being tired in a race, and then begin your interval structure or do hills after a long approach, things like that. So you can just mimic and almost trick the mind into thinking this will be how it feels at mile 150. And we're getting there within 2 hours of a training run. Just those
Mhm.
type of things. I think it's just finding familiarity with both pace and mindset is the biggest thing in both of those races. And since the mindset of a 200 is if you do 4 miles an hour, you're going to probably win the thing. So on average, so it's sort of just fighting those two different levels. Whereas like 100 miler, a lot of people want to be, yeah, I guess 4 miles an hour, but a little bit more efficiency and stuff too. And
Yeah.
maybe focus on that even pace throughout, which just makes 100 miler a lot more fun. Pretty easy to positive split a race by a ton and be gassed and exhausted and hate it by the end and get the same time as someone who negative split it and is stoked. So I think it's kind of
Sure.
that what you want to take away from each one too.
Now, you kind of touched on some like recovery and stuff like that and rest days. What are what are your rest days? I'm really curious, like what do your rest days look like? What do you do for your rest days? Because
Yeah.
the reason I ask is because like since I've gotten into endurance stuff, a lot of times when I'm now training during the week, just like what I used to do 5, 6 years ago, like at the gym, if I was lifting or something, I don't feel like I did enough. Or
Mhm.
like the volume that I have to train at now for my mind to be satisfied is kind of high. It's higher than it was years ago, right? How do
Yeah.
you deal with like that? And yeah, like what's your recovery look like as well?
Yeah. I think that especially with things like Strava and this, just seeing someone go for a race every single weekend
Yeah.
on your social media feed, that it's pretty important to maybe see that, but not worry about it. And then I think a big thing is tell yourself and really believe that currently I take like one rest day a week, but that rest day is the most important day of the week because that's when all the hard work of your other 6 days, that's when it turns into gains or improvement or anything like that. So really adopting that makes rest days a lot easier. And I think it is hard if you're used to doing an hour plus or something of working out a day or even more, that it's hard to even sleep on rest days like that. So I will
Right.
like go to like sauna session or cold
Yeah.
pool or something that feels like you've taxed your body, but not so much your muscles.
Oh, dude, freaking great answer. That was such a good answer. Because you're right. Like your body needs to absorb the training load from what you're
Mhm.
doing. Yeah. Dude, I love that. And it popped into my head today is because today is my rest day. And so that's exactly, I do like yoga, do some walks, and then I just go to the sauna and just have like a pretty chill day.
Yeah, I think the easiest and the most helpful thing is, especially on a rest day, and try every day, but not so important. But the most important thing on a rest day is right when I wake up, maybe I'll make coffee, but then I'll immediately go on I usually set the bar low. So 10+ minute walk. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 10. But it just is like I've already gone outside today. So it's too easy on a rest day to just be like, oh, I don't have anything going. I'll just end up at the computer. And before I know it, it's 4 p.m. It's just like taking that time already, because a rest day isn't that you don't have to make time for yourself, which I think is a trap people fall into, is just go on a walk, do something. I mean, you can roll out, you can use your Theragun or whatever. It's just like you can still use that time for yourself to go to the sauna or go on a walk or whatever. You're just not going to be running.
Yeah, man. Dude, oh, God. I think this is so important for people to hear, by the way, especially coming from someone like you that's a very high performer, very much up there in the endurance world. Like, you need to take rest days every so often, right? Like, once a week is what you're recommending at least. So, I love
Yeah,
that.
I think that that is kind of the beauty of the coach. I mean, I have a coach too.
Yeah.
It just helps where someone pencils it in and then you follow that. You don't have to guess or see someone run something really fast on Strava and you're like, oh, I'm motivated to go run. You already know you're not
Right.
running that day.
Right, dude. Dude, I fall into that all the time. I- And, and I would imagine, so like, I guess this kind of takes me back to like another question is like, do you ever, like, it probably isn't so bad now because now it's like almost your personality, but did you ever kind of like maybe growing up as you know, a few years ago as you were starting to get into this sport, did you ever get like pushback from people being like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're just obsessed with this. Like, what are you going to do? When are you going to get a real job or like blah, blah, blah? Like, did you ever get a lot of pushback like that?
Yeah, always and still do. I had a real job as an accountant and as like a contract CFO for small businesses from age like 22 to, I don't know, 25, 26, 27, off and on. So I had a pretty standard life working 70 hours a week. And I think that doing that and having the pushback and then going into exactly what I was supposed to do, I guess, where I had the job, was working in Denver, bunch of hours a week. And then every weekend I went out and climbed 14ers. So I climbed all
Yeah.
58 of the Colorado 14ers in one summer. And even while living the standard traditional way, it was just like, well, something keeps pulling me back to getting outside and doing these things, even though I'm sleeping very little over the weekend. I just need that adventure. And so that trial and error and going back to the more secure world of a salary and stuff like that, two different times, just reinforced that I'd like to try to make it work a different way or follow the beat of my own drum type thing. So yeah, it's not easy to go after something totally different. You really have to, I don't know, you have to reassure yourself a lot along the way because you're basically swimming upstream. And when, I don't know, a lot of stability and things that you see others have, you always want what you don't have. And so in that case, it's just like you have to focus on, well, I continually am fulfilled by this getting outside, whether it's running or FKTs or through hiking or just a simple backpacking trip, that I need to let myself be happy chasing that and then fill in the gaps to make that a part of my life and continue to do so. And then also it makes it more approachable when you just let yourself have the mindset that I don't have to do things like this forever, but currently right now, I really enjoy how I'm doing it. And so
Yeah.
everyone else that is against that or doesn't like it, it's okay. But they're not making the decisions or living with the consequences either. So why would I let them bother me?
Well, no, and it's typically people that you don't want to be anything like. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, why would you give me advice about, like, I look at your life and that's not what I want. So, like, why would I listen to you? Type of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, then you talk to older people and they're like, oh, I wish I would have done that when I was your age. And it's like, okay, so half of people wish they could do that and the other half think you're an idiot for doing it. It's like, well, you can't please everyone, so just don't read the negative comments, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man. No, that's inspiring. That's cool. And kind of going down that road, goal setting for you. I mean, how do you approach setting, kind of realistic, but also challenging goals when you're almost like setting the bar higher every single year? Like, what does that process look like for you? Do you sit down at the end of the year, kind of like now how it's kind of winter, things slow down a little bit? Do you start planning, hey, this is what I'm going to do to stoke yourself up? Or what does that process look like for you? Or do you just wing it? Because I feel like that could be it too.
I mean, sort of just wing it. I sent a couple people a list of all the races I was interested in like a couple days ago, and it was almost every weekend. So it's really hard to parse things down and have that mindset like you don't have to do them all next year type of thing. I think goal setting, I just think of it in I guess 3 tiers where you have like a dream or an idea. And so that would have been like the calendar year Triple Crown while hiking the PCT the first time. 5 years before I did it, it was like, oh, I wonder if I can do that. So it's kind of a dream. And then 4 years later going into it, it becomes a goal like, oh, I want to have this goal and go after it. And then once you turn your goal into a plan, that's when you're kind of moving. And so I think naturally we all have dreams. Sorry, everyone, we won't be able to achieve all of our dreams, but like the ones we really care about will turn into goals. And then the goals that we really want to chase will turn into plans. So I think it's just really natural how my mindset works. And all these dreams, like dreamed of being a basketball player in the NBA. Didn't work out, but it never became more than a dream. And so I think we just progressed through it. And the hard thing about this time of year is, especially now, I'm pretty exhausted. I raced like 1,100 miles this year. And so I'm taking less structured time. But the important thing is that physically and everything, you can get back into shape and get going to where you were before without too much issue. But it's that taking stock mentally and emotionally of like, are you ready to start at mile 0 again? Because mile 0 sucks. You have the entire race FKT through hike ahead of you. So I just try to check in with myself, and before I turn something into a plan, make sure I'm ready for mile 0, because that is the scary moment when you've not done nothing and you have a lot to go.
I love that, dude. So dreams, goals, plans. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. What does your winter look like now as you're kind of unfolding from these races that you've done, the adventures that you've done from this summer? What do you do? What are your plans during the winter? Like what do you focus on?
Yeah. usually November, December. This year it was November. I take the month off of running with the watch, so I'll still run, but it's just
Interesting.
go out, not worry about pace. When you get home, there's no reason to look on Strava at what you did because it's not there. So it's just like disconnecting from all the metrics and just enjoy running or make sure that I still enjoy it. So I like doing that every year. And so just finished that out, put the watch on yesterday or the day before, and then I'll start training. So I guess I've started training a little and I'll just ramp up and see where things go heading into the new year. I'm going to do Cocodona 250 again. So that's basically what I'll be training towards. And then maybe put in a plan or two or like an FKT or something along the way there. But yeah, it's pretty regimented for a lot of the year. And then these couple months, it's kind of nice to have a little bit less stress and
Yeah.
have a goal that isn't 2 weeks away, more like
Sure.
6 months away.
Sure. So you can kind of chill out a little bit. Yeah. Interesting. Now, so with a lot of these big goals, right? So when you create these big goals and you have these dreams and stuff, like obviously the more you reach, like the more likely there is going to be for failures to come and occur. Do you know, or can you recall like what maybe your biggest failure has been to date and like what you ultimately learned from that?
Yeah, I went for this, I guess, lesser known FKT, the Superior Hiking Trail FKT in Minnesota. And just, I'd gone through a lot, like breakup, and I was moving and stuff like that, and just went after it thinking that, well, I'm good at this. This will give me something to hang on to. It'll be
Sure.
really good experience. And I just went out there for completely the wrong reasons, just trying to fix life with a through hiker and FKT, which is what it basically became. And I was on pace after 3 days and then just got to a road and hitchhiked into town and just said, I'm done with this. I'm having no fun. It's just a slog through the woods and just with my own thoughts. And so I quit that and got hitchhiked back to my car and then drove around northern Minnesota in the peak of fall foliage and did some overnight backpacking instead of this FKT and turned it into a super positive trip
Wow.
of just sort of accepting that I was not mentally and emotionally prepared for an FKT. I could physically handle it, but that is like the smallest piece of the puzzle. So that was
Wow.
the biggest one for sure.
So it's kind of like your why wasn't there as it was in other attempts and things.
Yeah, there was no why. It was like, why? Because it's something I could do right now. I have 9 days.
Mm,
Let's go fill it with doing an FKT.
yeah, right on. What advice would you give to other people that maybe have just they tried doing some kind of challenging thing this year or something and they just totally failed? What advice would you give someone like that?
Um, I think that it's just okay to either go back and do it again, or it's okay not to. Like, you don't have to decide either one now or ever, but you'll know if you want to go back after it or do something again or attempt a 100 miler again or whatever it may be. But you also don't have to. I think that there's always this pressure that, I didn't do this. I need to go back and redeem myself. It's like, also, you don't have to. I think one of the big
Right.
things and goals in life is sometimes just getting to a yes or no. Like if it's a maybe in your mind, that sort of sucks. If it's a no, you can cross it off and don't have to do it. If it's a
Totally.
yes, you can chase it. But if it's a maybe, then it's you're just going to waste your time until you figure out whether you actually want to or not.
Man, that happens in I've heard that quote almost I've heard it being told in business as well. If there's a client or some kind of job that they want you to do or something like that, if it's not a hell yes, then probably it's a
Yeah.
no, right? Because
Yeah.
eventually along the lines you're probably going to have some sort of resentment or you're not going to perform to your highest degree that you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, anything where you're mentally, physically, and emotionally have to align, that's even more so the case
Totally.
where you're going to resent yourself. And that's a lot worse than resenting someone else.
Totally. That's good stuff. Well, hopefully everybody listens to that part of the podcast. Again, I told you we were going to be dropping some gems here, so this is awesome. So, real quick, I would love to know what are, given all of your experiences that you've done, you've been to a lot of places, especially in in North America and stuff. I guess 2 questions. What is the specific trail or race that kind of has your heart, as well as do you have a favorite type of terrain that you either love to race an ultra in or through hike in?
Yeah, I think, well, Cocodona 250 is going to be my favorite race. And then I think just the John Muir Trail is, Pacific Crest Trail in general is amazing, but the John Muir Trail, if you just want to grab a 220-mile snippet of it, I would definitely recommend. Is the favorite is just mountainous and kind of unlike anything with very attainable trail. You're at altitude, but it's smoother than a place like the Winds and stuff. So high up there. Yeah, it's
Dude,
pretty
the
epic.
winds
And
are
then, oh yeah, the winds are, they're so rugged and out there, and you're so disconnected that it's such a beautiful and cool thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'd just say the John Muir Trail, a little bit about the winds.
yeah, dude. Have you done the Wind River High Route?
No, I haven't.
Dude, that surprises me. I feel like you need to add that to your list.
Yeah, I gotta get down there. It's only like 5 or 6 hours away too, so I don't have
Yeah,
that much of an excuse.
because you're in Denver.
I'm in Bozeman now. I've been here
Oh, you're in
since the
Bozeman.
pandemic. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah. Dude, that was, if I had to answer the biggest failure, mine would be the Wind River High Route.
Oh, what
Damn, bro.
happened?
Oh, bro. We got wrecked on that thing. So we did the Skirka's version of it, of course.
Mhm.
And,
Yep.
we get up over there. It's the first day. And, first day, first half of the day, you're on trail, which is great. You knock
Yeah.
out, I think we knocked out 12 by 10 a.m. And then you get up and you get off trail and you go summit Wind River Peak. Well, we're post holing to our frickin' stomachs, dude, up there. It's July, middle of July. We're so altitude sick. It's at 13,000 some feet. I'm so altitude sick. Then we got to go down this, what's called the West Gully. And Skirka describes it as like extremely ugly, loose rocks and everything. And dude, it was gnarly. There's rocks rolling on your legs and we're getting cliffed out. We can't figure out how to get off of the thing. And so finally we end up down to where we want to camp. We're like 2 miles below where we want to get to, but we're just like so tired. We just set up camp and then we wake up the next morning. It takes us 4 hours to go 2 miles. I mean, dude, and we did not. So anyway, we ended up bailing and it took us a day and a half to get out. We had to hitch into Lander, from Land, and then all the way to Lander to Dubois. Dude, it was wild, dude. But I think you'd love it, man. Like you'd crush something like that, I think.
Yeah, I gotta try that. Another major failure was we tried to climb Mount Whitney under the full moon at night on the PCT in 2011, and we ended up like scrambling class 5 up these like pinnacles and stuff and got so lost because there was enough snow on the trail, and we ended up just like dangerously down climbing and sleeping on the trail until we could actually see where it went. So like a similar thing of just like you're in the middle of something, you're so wrapped up in, oh, it must be up, that you're finally like, there's no way the PCT is rock climbing. Like we need to get out of here.
Right. Yeah, I didn't hear this on the trail report on Mount Whitney, this little side trail that you have to do to get up to the tallest point or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know I had to
I
bring
think
my
there's-
chalk bag for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know I needed ice tools. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, that's so funny, man. Oh, good stuff.
But
Well,
there's so many stories of failures, but most are just fun now.
yeah. Well, so to wrap up the podcast, I always ask my audience to give me some questions. And I had a really good one from Stephen Scott Hand. He said, so basically he's wondering, so he's like, hey, you knock out 40s on your through hikes. He said, I'm just curious about the technical details of that. So I'm thinking like, I think what he's asking is like, walk me through a day of walk me through a 40-mile day. Like, how are you so efficient that you're busting out 40 miles so easily, I guess?
Yeah, let's just say it's light from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. I usually get up and I'm on the trail within 10 minutes. I'm completely packed up and I'm brushing
Wow.
yeah, pretty quick, pretty efficient. That's
10
the
minutes?
secret. That's the secret to these FKTs. On an FKT, it's like a 3-minute cleanup and on the trail.
Wow.
So I'm hiking, brushing my teeth by, I'll let the sun wake me up, but I'll be on the trail and hiking by 6 or 6:15 and then try to get 10 miles in by 9 to 9:15, take short break, water, food, whatever it may be. And food's all stored on the top of my pack so I can just easily grab it most efficient way. And then from, let's say, 9:30 to 12:15, 12:30, try to get in the second 10-mile stretch. So everything's kind of broken up into either 10 miles or 3-hour increments. And so got 20 miles in by 1, maybe have eaten lunch from 12:30 to 1. And then from 1 to 4, try to get in another 10 miles. Depending on where I am, if it's bear country or not, might just do dinner there during that break, just so you're not cooking where you're sleeping if it happens to be like grizzly stuff. And then, yeah, from 4:30 to 7:30, close out the last 10 miles of the day and gotten 40 miles. And of course, if it's light until 9:30, you can stretch that to closer to 50, all in the daylight. Actually, one time on the Pacific Crest Trail during the calendar year Triple Crown, I wanted to see if I could do what I call the daylight 50. So not use a headlamp at all and do 50 miles in a day, and was able to do that in Oregon. But it's just like those little things of longer adventures make it fun. So whether it happens to be a certain amount of time between aid stations in a race or doing, I don't know, anything like that, a 24-hour challenge is pretty common. Just those little micro goals really help break things up or expand your imagination and maintain some creativity. It's like, well, what can I do today? I'm going to be hiking, but what else can I do? Can I find 10 different birds or something or whatever? So
kind of breaks the monotony of it, because no matter what, even if you're on a through hike, it kind of becomes monotonous after a while.
Yeah. And you can restructure that monotony into, you have all this time to think and all these things to see. Like, just take the shackles off your brain and let it flow and go anywhere it wants to. It's sort of like, oh, that lake looks like this, or there's the peak only a mile off the trail. Let's go climb it. Like that kind of thing. I think it's a cool way to let go of a lot of the constraints.
Dude. Oh man, this was great, by the way. We're already at an hour, dude. This absolutely flew by for me. I love talking to people like this. Where can people catch up with you on? Where are you the most responsive? Or if they wanted to sign up for coaching or anything like that, where can they get you on?
Yeah, freeoutside.com or at the freeoutside on Instagram, freeoutside on TikTok and Facebook and Twitter or X, all those things. So pretty much Free Outside. It also happens to be the title of the movie that'll hopefully be coming out after the new year, and then also of the book that I wrote. So pretty easy.
Oh,
keep it all
sick, dude. Okay,
vertically
you wrote
integrated.
a book too? What?
Yeah.
Really? No kidding.
Yeah, it's about the calendar year Triple Crown, and so
wow,
I recommend.
Dude. Wow, dude, big stuff. And the documentary on the Colorado Trail, that's called The Free Outside, right?
Yeah, just Free Outside. Yep.
Okay, awesome, dude.
Hopefully
I watched the trailer. I watched the trailer for that, dude. Looked good. It looked really good.
Thanks.
It was really cool. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think they did a good job.
Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. I think it'll be good. We'll get it out there to the masses. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for being flexible as things are a bit crazy with unplanned travel. I literally booked this flight 3 hours before it left, just because sometimes that's how it be. All right, love you all. Thanks for listening, and stay elite, my friends.